Okay, any other comments?
I think your film really tied together so many different issues and themes through Jimmy's life that were really important. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, just amazing that after 9/11, Jimmy and the Muslim Americans, JAs, all of that, and being a renunciant as well. There's a silent part where you asked him where he was after he left being a driver, I guess, at the apartment. And then I have kind of a silly question, which is, do you still have that cat that was in the film?
He's cute.
I'll answer the silly question first. That was Stinky, my cat. I didn't name her that. She came with that name. That was more than 10 years ago, and she has gone on to kitty heaven, I'm afraid. But she has been immortalized on the silver screen here. And I have 2 new cats waiting for me at home with a friend keeping them right now. Where Jimmy was after Park Avenue was pretty much Washington Square Park. Yeah. And,
Thank you.
from probably late 80s.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a kind of weird question. You know, he said you were a tough woman.
Yes.
I was wondering how many times you passed by him before, and what about him? Because, you know, in New York, there are a lot of homeless people, a lot of character in their faces, and then what made you detect that there was even a story there?
Yeah, so I actually literally, the first time I really saw Jimmy was New Year's Day, 2001. And I think because I was off work, I went kind of a different direction than I normally did. In New York, we have our little patterns. We go this way to the subway, and so I went a different way. And he was at the deli on the other corner, and he was out there in the cold. It was a particularly cold winter, and drawing pictures of cats. And I was curious and concerned, and I like cats. So he gave me a drawing and asked me to take a picture of it for him. And I came back the next day with a video camera. And at the time, I didn't really know much more than that. And but I found that if I brought the camera and asked him to tell me the stories of what he was drawing, he wanted to tell. He had lots of stories to tell. So I just got in the habit of going a little bit out of my way and always putting a camera in my backpack on my way to and from work and stopping by to see how he was doing. So little by little, I got more and more stories and learned more and more. And I think at the point where I realized that he'd lost homes in such a profound way in the past through the camps and the bombing of his ancestral home, I wanted to explore the link between those events and his life in New York. And so I thought that's the story I was telling. And then the World Trade Center came down, and I sort of impulsively brought him home, and it turned into The Odd Couple. So, I forget what your question was, but did that answer it?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I have sort of 2 questions.
Yeah.
You know, his association with Jackson Pollock sounds really fascinating.
Yeah.
Is there any elaboration on that? And also, all the work in the gallery last night was from 1996 to 2006, or it seemed to be dated that way. And what about his earlier body of work? Is there any around?
Okay, I'll answer the last one first and remind me later what the first question was, because my mind is going. I'm not as kinky as Jimmy. But the earlier work, we found, we showed the film in Sacramento a few years ago, and a woman showed up at the screening with an old painting under her arm and said, and it's a painting of the mountain and the gate and the barracks, and it's very fine pen and ink work. She said this has been hanging on the wall of their family's home for 60 years, and that all they knew about it was that her father bought the painting from a young artist when the Tule Lake camp was closing. And she saw that the film was showing in the newspaper and brought it in. It turned out it was Jimmy's work. So that's the earliest piece we know of, and that is going to be in an exhibit called The Art of Gaman. Gaman, pronouncing it right?
Yeah.
Is sort of a word for enduring something very difficult with dignity.
Difficulty or harsh situation, just enduring it.
And it's arts and crafts from the camps. And that show has been at the Smithsonian, it's toured the country, and it's coming to Santa Fe, opening next weekend. And Jimmy's painting will be in that exhibit.
I saw the show.
It's open now.
Yeah, in the earlier, the show opened, I think, in Connecticut several years ago, and at that point, we hadn't found that painting yet. So when we did find the painting, the family that found the painting decided to go on a pilgrimage the next year, and they met Delphine Hirasura, who's the curator of that show, and she arranged for the painting to be included in the show. And,
Jackson
Pollock.
Pollock.
Yeah. Jimmy was a cook out near Montauk on Long Island, where Pollock had a studio. And he says he cooked at a restaurant called Trail's End, and that Pollock came in there pretty regularly after fishing or something out near the lighthouse. And Jimmy says he taught Jackson Pollock how to use chopsticks. And that he visited Pollock's studio. And he says that the way Pollock painted on the floor with the, was similar to, I guess, Japanese calligraphy when you paint really big. Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
He's my fact checker, among other things. Yeah. And there is new work that's going to be exhibited in Santa Fe at a gallery called 8 Modern. And this will be the first time we've exhibited work for sale by Jimmy. And that's opening next weekend in Santa Fe.
And how long will that show run?
That show will be up for about 3 weeks, I believe. I'll put a link to that on our website. Our website is the Cats of Mirikitani.